Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show, highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyles, community, and neighborhood. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning. Welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. We are, Dorothy, wrapping up July and quickly moving into August.
It's coming in fast, isn't it?
Well, in Moore County, August means parents are on alert. That means kids are heading back to school in a couple of weeks.
And parents are getting ready to rejoice.
And they don't need any more therapy. It's all over. And the kids get back into a more disciplined regiment. About 5 or 6 years ago, I was introduced to Communities and Schools by Dr. Robin Moore, and took the Covey training with him over at Southern Middle School. And he said to me, Bill, he said, why don't you think about becoming a mentor? And I said, I'm pretty busy. It would be really hard to do. And he said, no, you need to do this. And well, I did it for 3 years, and it was one of the most rewarding experiences. I met with a young boy who was a 6th grader at the time for 3 years. He's no longer living in the area. His dad transferred. But from 6th grade, Jake it was hard for him to make eye contact. He didn't really have a lot of social skills. He was a great kid. He was, I think, the 3rd of 4 brothers, and he came from a very nice family. And it was just very difficult to get him to talk directly. And so we got together and we met each week. We did homework. We talked about some of the things he liked. Some days I left there and I pulled my muscles trying to pull straws from him to get him to talk. By the 8th grade, Jake would walk around the halls of Southern Middle, like he owned the place. He had the mentality of a landlord. He had all his friends, and they would just be signaling to each other, and they would be dressed up in these Celadon bracelets and these cool shirts. And Jake was too cool for words, and he was ready to take on the world. So you get to see the result of what mentoring can do, even in a family where there are great parents. One of the misnomers about the Communities and Schools mentoring program is that it's for kids that are troubled or kids that come from a broken family, and that might be the case. But having mentors and role models are great. I've got a couple of guests with me today. I'm going to be speaking with the executive director of Communities and Schools, Brianna Nelson, and Davis Clark and Bob Rigsby, who are getting ready to do their 20th annual Rigsby-Clark Golf Tournament on behalf of Communities and Schools. And gentlemen, I'll ask both of you just a quick question. I have a lot of questions to ask you, but don't you remember mentoring experiences when you were younger than the age of 15 as if they just happened yesterday?
Most definitely.
Davis, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah. Don't you remember the mentoring experiences you had that went beyond your mom and your dad?
Definitely. Whether it be a teacher, a coach, a friend, they all shape you.
And in our minds, we're still, in many ways, still that age. We might look differently on the outside, but we still remember all those things as if they just happened. Mentoring does make a difference.
It definitely does.
Yeah. Bob, how about you?
Time goes on, they're get to be more important in my life. I'm, of course, at a kind of an advanced age, but it's more real all the time. Your associations with leaders beforehand that have been a real influence upon my life.
Right. And isn't it a privilege to be able to mentor a young adult, a young child, middle school, where you can share with them your experiences, just like you had received. It's a great thing to give, and that's what mentoring does.
It's just great. The influence that I have noticed on these kids is they'll look at you in the eye, they'll shake your hand, and they're learning the social skills that they need to know that they are not exposed to.
Right. Bob brings up, Brianna, I'll first of all say good morning to you.
Good morning.
Bob, this is not your first time on the show, so I'm so glad you could come back, and kudos to Tracy Gibson for helping us get this together.
Yeah, she's been fantastic.
Yeah, so you and I have something in common because we both want to clone Tracy.
Absolutely.
You clone her first, and I'll clone her second.
Okay, sounds good.
And then we can split her time. Very talented lady.
Yeah, we're very lucky to have her.
Yeah. Bob brings up a good point. Eye contact, shaking hands. He didn't mention texting, and he didn't mention electronic communication, did he?
No, he didn't. No, but one of the things that we are experiencing with, or some of the issues that we have with our mentors, is being able to work with kids and deal with electronics. A lot of the times our mentors will come to us and with some questions. Well, what am I supposed to do, when I'm trying to spend time with my mentee, and they pull out their cell phone and they start texting, or they just pick up their phone and they make a phone call. It's it's a challenge that mentors are facing these days that they weren't necessarily facing in the past.
We've had so many shows this year where social media comes up, and the way kids get their self-esteem sometimes is through their smartphone and through what other people say, and there's not that eyeball-to-eyeball contact. Bob, when I was a kid, if my father introduced me to a friend of his and I didn't look him in the eye and shake his hand, he would kick me in the butt. He would say, "What is wrong with you?" Davis, you're smiling. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I definitely know exactly what you're talking about.
We were raised differently. I mean, you look him in the eye, and then I would shake his hand, and then my father would say, "Shake it more firmly. Don't just give him a real good handshake. Mean it." And
no limp noodles.
Yeah, right. I just said, "Where's Mom? I just need to get away from this." But we're going to talk a lot about. You've got a very important fundraiser coming up, and Communities in Schools is one of those. It's a nonprofit. It's one of the most important organizations in Moore County because it's one of the things that helps provide a net for our students. But for people, Brianna, who aren't familiar with Communities in Schools, can you give us an overview of the organization? Because it's not just mentoring.
You're right, it's not just mentoring, and for so long in Moore County, Communities in Schools has been synonymous with mentoring. But what we do is provide a framework or a support network, as you mentioned, Bill, for kids, but not just kids, also their families.
Right.
So when we work with a student, then our student support specialist will talk to that child, talk to their family to get a real understanding of what it is that they need to be successful. So it's not just academics, and it's not just a mentor. Maybe they need something more intensive to where there's some mental health issues or some substance abuse, maybe in the home or maybe with the child themselves. So it's our responsibility to make sure that we make the connection between that child and what they need, to the resources that they need. So our student support specialists are really good at working not only with the child and the family, but with the administrators and the teachers, because they see the kids every day. They get a real sense for what might be going on. Maybe the kid is falling asleep in class, or maybe they're acting out. So they're exhibiting the behavior, but what's behind that? So we really take a lot of time figuring out the source, and that's the only way you're really going to address the behavior, is to figure out why they're exhibiting the behavior.
And middle school is such a difficult time for kids. They're in between being little kids and being adults, getting ready for high school. Very impressionable 3-year period where kids can go wrong where they can be reinforced for getting on the right track.
Yeah, it's a very tough time, and that's one of the reasons why we are focused right now on expanding our program actually at Southern Middle School. Right now we're working with approximately 30 kids. This coming school year, we're actually more than doubling the amount of kids that we're going to work with. So we're going to be kind of not reinventing the program, but just expanding it and offering more services, because it is such an awkward, or can be such an awkward stage for kids, coming from elementary school, which is a much smaller environment, into a middle school. They're dealing with issues, self-esteem, they're dealing with puberty, they're starting to think about what they're actually going to do in high school and college and throughout that. So there's a lot of things going on at that point in their lives. So we're really taking a direct approach in working with the teachers, and we're really going to be working with a large number of students, for example, in Southern Middle School.
As I recall, the mentor training was based on Stephen Covey's The Habits of Highly Effective. Was there anything in that book that talked about the electronic communication of kids? I don't recall seeing that. What? It's a problem. It's like another layer of, oh boy, we have to work through this as well.
We have to evolve as well. We can't just take, the training, for example, as you mentioned, that we've used a couple of years ago, and think that it's still going to pertain to our kids today, because it just doesn't.
Right.
The world is changing very quickly, and we have to change with it. If we're going to be a positive influence in our children's lives, then we have to understand what they're up against. So in one of our other programs, our family strengthening classes, we spend some time with the families talking about what it was like for us growing up and in school, and what was influencing us as opposed to what our kids are facing. And a lot of the parents, they understand social media and how their kids are affected by that, but I don't think they really understand the depth that it can affect their children, and just how much access kids, even at school, sometimes can have access to social media. So it's something we spend a lot of time talking about, and just bringing awareness to a lot of parents. And some parents may know that their kids have a Facebook page,
right,
but they don't have access to it,
right,
or they don't realize, or they think that their kid, they have a Facebook page, I'm a friend with them on Facebook page, but they don't think outside of the box, so to speak, where if a kid wants to have a Facebook page or a Twitter account under another name, they can do that. So it's, as I mentioned, we spend a lot of time just putting these issues in front of parents, just so that they realize some of the things that are facing our kids, because it is very important to know.
CNN did a special on social media maybe about 6 months ago. They had a group of parents on TV, and some of the information that came up shocked me. They say that the average kid in middle school, young adult, will access their phone for social media between 90 and 100 times a day. A day. And that's 90 or 100 report cards about how they feel about themselves, because of the way people will talk on social media or exclude some of the kids in the group. It can be, Davis, when I grew up, or when you grew up, if somebody wanted to pick a fight with you or whatever, they'd do it to your face.
They would definitely. I mean,
right?
They didn't have...
You knew who your enemies were.
Yeah.
If you wanted to tell somebody something, you might write a note, or you would tell them in person.
Right. Right.
It's a different world. I personally have 4 daughters.
What ages?
They're 20, 19, 15, and 14.
So you've gotten to the other side of most of the agita, I guess, huh?
I have. We've been very blessed.
Wow. Did you have your experience with your daughters, any difficulties in the middle school transition?
I think as long as you set expectations, there's always going to be, with all of mine are girls, 4 girls, but whether it's boys or girls, you're going to have challenges.
Right.
They know that I love them no matter what. I may not like what they do for this or that, but the love is unconditional. And I think that's, we all have friends that we have that same relationship with, and I think that's part of the mentoring program, the trust that's built there. That's very important.
Mm-hmm. Some parents take offense to, if I'm wrong, correct me, some parents get defensive if they think that they'll say, my child doesn't need a mentoring program, and there's a defensiveness that comes up sometimes. You deal with that.
Absolutely, and I wouldn't say it's all the time, but we do see it a lot. Number one, a lot of course, you don't want to admit that the child's acting out in class. If you get a phone call from the principal, first thing is, well, no, my child didn't do that. And then some things that we run into sometimes when we're trying to get a parent's buy-in to the program, if we're contacting them, explaining the program to them, and saying, what we would like to do is, have your child, be part of communities and schools and get a mentor. They sometimes feel that it's something that they did wrong.
Right.
Or it's just, well, we don't need another adult coming into our child's life. We're the parents, we can handle it. And that's not the situation necessarily. I mean, just having another positive influence in a child's life can be so influential. I think everybody at this table in this room, and we talked about this prior, there's been people, probably more informally than more formal, that have influenced us. So actually one of the things that we're doing in the coming year is we're implementing a mentee training that's going to be including parents as well. We focus so much on training mentors and what the expectations are and setting goals with their mentees. What we want to do is make sure that we're getting more buy-in from the parents and making sure that they understand exactly what it is that they're expected to do, because we need to have them supportive of the mentor-mentee relationship as well. And so we need to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Can we agree that most parents would agree that the 6th to the 8th grade are formative years? They can be difficult, even in the best of situations, as kids are starting to feel their oats and step out and act out, that it is a time that you want to wrap your arms around them and kind of cushion them a little bit so that by the time they get to high school, you got them on the right track. And you're encouraging discipline, you're encouraging good habits, consistency.
Yeah, the 6th through 8th grade is a very formidable time in a kid's life. So, as I mentioned, that's why we're focusing on Southern Middle School and working with that age range, just because there is, such a transition that they're making from elementary school to the high school. And it's one of the things that Communities in Schools does best is providing a network of support. As I had mentioned, we get to the source of what's causing some behavior in some of the kids.
Yeah, we're going to come back in the second set. Providing the network of support is not free. And as a nonprofit, it takes monies. It takes participation by the local community to keep a program like this vibrant. We're talking all about communities and schools. We're going to be talking about the 20th annual Rigsby Clark Golf Tournament at the Longleaf Golf and Family Club on Saturday, August 13th. We'll be right back.
Our mum, she's so house proud. Nothing ever slows her down, and a mess is not allowed.
Welcome back to the second set of All Things Moore County, talking about communities and schools all day. In a couple of weeks, on the 13th of August, you're having the 20th annual Rigsby Clark Golf Tournament. Your biggest fundraiser of the year, or one of them?
No, it is absolutely our biggest fundraiser of the year. Okay. Ever since its inception with More Buddies, it has and continues to be our biggest, by far, fundraiser of the year.
Okay. It's an opportunity for people in the community to play a great golf course. Tell me, is it Rigsby Clark? Is that been the name of the golf tournament since day one?
It was not. We kind of got pulled into that.
Okay.
We don't think much of the name of the golf tournament.
You don't like the name?
We're stuck with it.
When we started the tournament 20 years ago, Mike Hall, who was the minister at Bethesda Presbyterian Church,
Right.
and my uncle Frank McNeil Sr. came to me.
Frank McNeil is your
They were
McNeil Oil?
Yes, sir.
What a great guy.
Well, they were on the first board of More Buddies, and
Okay.
they came to me
Okay.
to ask if I would help start a golf tournament. And so I got up with a few of my vendor sponsors, got them on board, and we had our first golf tournament.
Okay.
Did that for 2 years, and it started evolving a little bit, and it turned into an animal. I mean, it's more than one person could do.
Right.
And of course, Bob and I were going to church together, and we talked to him. He's been in golf all his life, and when we kind of paired up, I think the tournament hit a new level because of our different spheres of influence.
Mm-hmm.
I work with McNeil Oil Company and Max Food Stores. The stores and our vendors are a natural fit for a golf tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Bob and his connections with the golf community just helped to bring in prizes, sponsors, players, and it all works together.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun day. It really is. We used to, and we have, and I continue to say, you really can't afford not to play because of the fun you have.
Right. Right.
You're giving back to the community.
Right.
Our companies have been involved since day one. That's just part of what we do as our mission as a company is to give back to the community.
Right.
And this is one way we can do this.
Right.
Well, Davis and I kind of fell into a partnership there that, first of all, we're good friends, have been for a long time, and he naturally fell into all of these vendors that sponsor holes and provide things for the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of naturally fell into shaking the bushes to get people to play.
Mm-hmm. For people who don't know, you were the
That's right.
the head golf pro at the Pit in its heyday.
I was an assistant at the time.
Okay.
But, it just got to where it was easy for us to work together.
Right.
And throughout the years, we've gotten to where we had to work less to do more. And the tournament has kind of taken a life of its own.
Right.
And we don't have to do as much as we used to, but it's still a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it's a thing that's real close to my heart and to Davis.
And over the years, we've been very successful. I think we were close to $350,000 raised in 19 years.
Oh my goodness.
And that's
Yeah.
that's going for something very worthwhile.
Right. Right. As a father with 4 kids, now you can say, yes, there are a lot of parents with a lot of kids, and it's a chance to give back, not just for your family, but for other families. And there's so many new young families moving into Moore County. The military presence has really created a little bit of pressure on the population in the schools. And that gets reflected too, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
The tournament's a chance for anybody to contribute to communities and schools. If you think you don't have time to be a mentor,
Right.
come out and support it. See what we're all about.
Is this going to be a shotgun tournament?
It will be.
Okay.
Captain's choice. Bring your own team. This is not what I would call a money tournament. The prizes we give are all donated. All the money that we make goes back to communities and schools.
Right.
We have to pay the golf course because, that's what their business is, but that's
Sure.
the only monies that are expended. Even lunch. Cheerwine's been a great sponsor for us. They're going to provide a wonderful barbecue, pork barbecue lunch.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a fun day, great day. And so it's our hope that people will come out and support.
I'm looking at the list of sponsors, and it's almost like a who's who in Moore County. And if I start to mention one, I probably would have to mention them all, and I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to let you talk a little bit about the participation with the local community that's made this so successful.
It has been wonderful. I do have vendors and sponsors that'll ask me, when is your tournament?
Right.
Instead of, normally you have to go knocking on the doors, which is a very positive thing. We've got lots of local companies and people that do sponsor. We've got local banks. I know BB&T and First Bank have been big sponsors. Our wholesaler, Core-Mark, JT Davenport and Sons, they have been tremendous. The goodie bags that we put together for the golfers, and we have them for the volunteers as well.
Right.
They're notorious.
There is a hole-in-one Jeep Wrangler for a hole-in-one sponsor.
Right.
Prize. We have kind of gone more area-wide. We bring in quite a few players from around the area. I think all of my kinfolks play in the tournament.
Right.
My son brings 3 teams from Hickory, and my
Nice.
other son is in the golf business, and he's bringing a team from Asheville this time. And my son-in-law is bringing a team from somewhere, grandson-in-law, excuse me. So we are getting to be pretty well known, and this crowd that my son is part of, it's a big occasion for them for the year. They have a big party on Friday night beforehand, and it's quite an occasion for them. We're proud of the attitude that people have about our tournament. It provides, people that play in it know that they are providing something for somebody.
And there are a lot of people who play a lot of golf, and then there's some people who will only play a couple of rounds a year, and they should not be intimidated to come out. Longleaf is a very friendly golf course.
And this is a fun tournament.
Right.
I mean, the prizes that we're going to give are golf.
Right.
And so we're just out there for fun.
Right.
Whether you're a scratch golfer or a 28, 30 handicap, just come have fun. Ultimately, the kids will benefit. The program will benefit, and that's our goal.
Yeah, it's a great networking opportunity. There are so many people in this community who know each other, and these tournaments are great opportunities for people to get together. In our age of Facebook, you think that, oh, you haven't seen people in 6 months, but you see them every day on your computer screen, and all of a sudden 6 months have gone by. That's not the case. This is in your face. This is eyeball to eyeball.
You're exactly right.
So is this going to be, it's going to be like a figure 5 hours. It's a tee off at 8:30. It's going to be a shotgun, so you'll send teams off pretty much every hole.
Right.
Yeah.
And lunch is served, goodie bags are provided.
There'll be some raffle prizes when you come in.
Yeah.
They're already drawn, so you're not waiting for numbers to be, called out. It's all on a board. You just go and look and see if you won something.
Yeah. I applaud you for the timing of the tournament, because it's the same reason why we're talking this weekend. We're a few weeks away from the start of school. This is a great time of the year to talk about communities and schools. A couple of years ago, I remember you did a fundraiser or two in January, if I'm not mistaken, right after the holiday season. And sometimes it's hard to keep people's attention, especially after the holidays. And I'm not quite sure what the event was. Was it a dance?
The Second Chance Prom.
Second
in April. It actually was in April, the Second Chance Prom.
What was the dance event a couple of years ago? Wasn't there?
Oh, Dancing with the Sandhill Stars.
That's it.
That's what it is.
That's what it was.
That was in January, absolutely.
Right. But this is a time of the year where people are starting to come back to Moore County, get ready for the school year. Mm-hmm. Everybody is sort of like battening down the hatch and moving into the fall season. So we're hoping you have a full, what would a full field look like for you?
30 teams.
30 teams.
We might could squeeze another one or two, but we'd like to cap it at 30.
Right.
So it's the flow is very good.
We have had as many as 32, and for some reason, I don't know why, it's always been done within 5 hours about. And,
that's pretty good for a shop.
That's very good for
this
a
type
large
of event.
Full course. And I had Rangers for a couple of years and found out we didn't need them.
Uh-huh.
And,
wow.
But everybody keeps moving. Everybody has a good time. We try to have a few of our kids out there wandering around so people will see them.
Right.
And they'll see the people that are helping them too. And we have never had a complaint about the tournament itself.
Yeah.
It's people have been very receptive to the whole concept, and it's an enjoyable weekend. It's a big weekend of the year for all of my family.
And even though it may be a little hot, we try to keep everybody hydrated.
Uh-huh.
Our drink vendor sponsors are very good to us. Aberdeen Coke, Pepsi, Cheerwine. We'll have beverages about every 3 holes, so you're not waiting for somebody. Mm-hmm. In ice barrels, we'll have Gatorade, water, Powerade, some sodas out there, but the stuff they need to be drinking is out there. Mm-hmm. And all that's donated for us to use, and anything that's left they use for the kids in the programs.
Mm-hmm. We have time. There's time for people to still sign up. Bring a foursome. Where would they go to get information about the tournament?
They can go to our website, which is cismore.org, or they can call our office at 295-1072, and we'll make sure that we get the information to them that they need.
And there are still some openings, so it's not too late for people if they're just hearing about it for the first time.
People are signing up very quickly, so if you want to put a team in, now's the time to do it.
Yeah, and we'll check with the authorities, and we can make sure that the weather is going to be 78 to 82 degrees with low humidity. We can take care of that for you if you want.
Hey, go ahead. That would be great.
Right? That will generate more and more people coming out.
Right.
We can still take sponsors as well. If somebody's out there wants to just help and maybe not even play, or they're not a golfer, we would love to make a sign and let them sponsor a hole.
So you're looking for sponsors.
It's never too late to get a sponsor, and the kids are always good and helpful, and it's a good experience for them too.
Okay. We're going to come back in the third set talking about communities and schools. The golf tournament is on the 13th of August, which is a Saturday. It's an 8:30 shotgun, sponsored by Mac Food Stores, barbecue lunch, lots of goodie bags, and just a great way to get the communities and schools fall season off to a great start, and just a great event for a lot of the people in Moore County who have a great network opportunity. This is All Things Moore County.
Mother has to iron his shirt, then she sends the kids to school. In the middle of our street, our house. In the middle of our house, it has a crown. There's always something happening, and it's
Welcome back. All Things Moore County. Communities and schools is one of the most. They're our guest today. It's one of the. In my thinking, with what's happening with the demographics in Moore County, it's one of the most important agencies. that makes the reason people move here many times is because of the school system. A lot of the military move here, and we always say that in Moore County we provide nets for our students from the time they enter preschool to the time they get out of high school. And if you think of a net, a support net for students, the dip comes in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And think of a trampoline. If you jump on it properly, you will go very high coming off it. And if that trampoline is not set up properly, you'll go right through it. And so the work that you guys do, Brianna, is, I mean, I'm all on board with communities and schools, and I think it's such an important program. You have many initiatives besides just the mentoring program that you are undertaking as well.
We do, and we have 4 core programs at communities and schools. We have the community mentoring program, which came to communities and schools from More Buddies. We've had that in Moore County since 1997, so we've had that program for quite a while. And then we have our in-school mentoring program, which is the program that we're mentioning quite frequently here at Southern Middle School. Then we have our Reading Buddies program, which we started, I think we're in our 3rd year doing Reading Buddies, and that is a program that we have in our primary schools where we're working with 2nd graders to enhance their literacy. So we have volunteers come in and work with kids either individually or in small groups to work on reading comprehension or vocabulary, just reading out loud. And then our 4th core program that we have is called More Family Connections, and that is a program that I'm personally very proud of. I also coordinate that program. We use an evidence-based curriculum called Strengthening Families, and this is really getting to the core and talking about the net that you were referencing, Bill. Yeah. Working with the entire family. So we're not just working with the child one-on-one, but we actually work with the entire family. So the family will go through a series of 12 classes with approximately 3 to 5 other families. And we work with them for 12 weeks, and we go through, such skills as, problem solving. We talk about bullying. We talk about the importance of quality time and having family meetings, skills that will ultimately strengthen the family unit. So it gives the families an opportunity to, number one, work together. And as you mentioned, not all the families that are in our programs are struggling with maybe some bad behavior or something like that. Maybe there's a military family and there's an absent parent, but it's also, the class also acts as support for a lot of the parents, especially if there's a single parent. They can come in to the class and they're surrounded with 3, 5 other families, and they're hearing oftentimes the same things that they're struggling with. So it's a relief for them sometimes. And then you have some families or some parents that are stay-at-home moms or stay-at-home dads, and so they get invited to the class and they get out of the home, and some of them will tell me, well, I'm just thankful every week that I can get out of the home, and while they're in the classes, their children are in a separate class, and so they get that kind of respite from the whole busyness of being a mom or a dad for that moment. So that class, it's educational, but it's also supportive.
And this is a 12-week program?
It's a 12-week program, and at the end of the 12 weeks, they'll get a certificate. And oftentimes, too, a lot of the families or the parents will say, this is the first certificate that I've ever earned. And you can just see the pride in their face, because it's a big commitment. 12 weeks is 3 months.
Right.
So it's a big commitment for anybody here with busy families. I mean, it's a big commitment. So we're very proud of the families that complete the program.
And you've completed it one time so far, or is this the second time around?
We've had the program since 2009.
Okay.
This is a program that also came from More Buddies to communities and schools.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had it since 2009. We get it, fortunately, from a grant from the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, so we work very closely with juvenile court. We get a lot of referrals from juvenile court. So they see the kids exhibiting, certain behaviors, or maybe they're involved within the court system. But then after kind of looking at the bigger picture, they see that maybe some parenting skills need to be implemented in the home as well.
You brought up something in your discussion, and you mentioned single-parent families, and that's on the rise. It's amazing. There's so many more fragmented families, and a single parent with kids also needs that support system as well.
They absolutely do. I don't know the exact statistics, but I would agree with you. In going through some research, I have noticed that the numbers are rising in the amount of single-parent homes here in Moore County, and I would suspect, nationwide as well.
Right.
And so we need to find a better way to support those parents. They're often very busy. They're working. They're taking care of their kids. Some of them are going to school as well. And so they oftentimes find themselves a little bit isolated because they don't have or they can't find the time to have the support that they need. They don't reach out for it. So when the kids come into the system and they come into our purview, that's when we have an opportunity to grasp onto some of those parents.
Yeah. A few weeks ago, we just came off the political convention season, and there's a lot of talk around about role models and what kids see or don't see. And role models are, a mentor provides a role model more than anything. I think it's not how much progress they can make, because sometimes the progress that they make has a delayed reaction.
That's absolutely right.
Right?
Yeah, and just having a positive influence in your life it can be so effective. And we do spend a lot of time with our mentors, and I would say it ranks pretty high on the list of the things that the mentors take issue with. Well, they want to come in, they want to make a change immediately in this child's life,
right.
And it just doesn't happen.
Right.
They may see a smile on the child's face when they come into the school and they see them, or they see them out in the community, and that's great. But they want to see their behavior stop. They want to see them stop being suspended in school or out of school. They want to see their grades, go from a D to an A, in a semester.
4 weeks.
And that just doesn't happen sometimes. And so a lot of our mentors get frustrated, but we have to keep, educating them and keep encouraging them, keep them in touch with, thinking when they were younger, because I know I can still think of when I was growing up, there was people that came into my life as mentors and role models. I didn't realize that's what they were, but there's things that I can still think back, like, oh, okay, well, that person, taught me to do this, or taught me to say this or that. And so that's the delayed effect that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so we have to keep reminding our mentors that's sometimes that's how their change happens.
I think this area is really unique in that there's so many different types of single-parent homes in the area.
Yes, there are.
A lot of military, a lot of transient, and all the other kinds too. And it's different, and it's tough.
Is it consistency that the kids trust? Because I would think, you have 4 kids. A mentor, it's got to be something that's consistent, that they can start to believe in, as opposed to just a one-shot type deal.
We are all role models every day.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're good, and sometimes we're bad. We don't intend to be bad, but we all make bad choices.
Right.
I tell my kids, I hope your bad choices are less bad than other people's bad choices, because we're all going to make bad choices. It's how you respond from that.
Yeah.
And I think, every day we can all do something a little bit better in our lives, because somebody's watching, and it may be a kid.
If you guys could look to the next 12 months, what's your perfect world scenario? What do you see? What would you like to see happen for the Communities and Schools program in Moore County?
Oh, wow.
We're at the beginning of a new school year coming up. Well, what are your aspirations?
Well, I would love to see, us be able to work with every kid that needs to have a support network. And unfortunately, there's just so many. And right now, our concentration of where our core programs are, unfortunately, they are in the Southern Pines and Aberdeen area. I would like to see us reach out to the Robbins area. I would like to see us have more Hispanic mentors, more male mentors. I would like to see us in the Vass area. Those pockets in Moore County where a lot of attention is unfortunately just not focused. So I would love to be able to work with all of those children and all those families, but we just can't do that. And one of the things that we've been talking about, is having the resources to do that, the financial resources to do that.
And that's a challenge. This past year, with our local elections, there's been a lot of talk about the school system and the sales tax and teacher morale. There are a lot of issues going on, but you guys are sort of not flying under the radar, but you're kind of in step with, I think, a lot of the thinking. You're trying to self-generate. You're trying to think outside the box to make the organization as vital and viable as possible in an era where funds are difficult to come by at a state and local level unless it's self-generated.
We have to make sure that we are able to sustain our programming on our own.
Right.
I can't say on our own because we rely heavily on grants and other private donations, but there's so much competition for grants. There's so much competition in fundraising.
Yes.
And so we are constantly looking for new ways to generate revenue. Grants, some of the grants that we operate off of, we were talking about United Way, and unfortunately JCPC, they're yearly grants. And so from year to year, we have to write a grant, and so we have to write a grant to fill those positions. And if we don't get that grant, then we don't have that position, which means that we don't have, someone working directly with kids. So it's a challenge, and there's more and more people that are relying on grants. And so one of the things that has been so important is our ability to fundraise. There's been organizations that I've seen have to close their doors because they lost a grant and they don't have the resources to sustain their programming. If we lost our grants, we would be in a financial situation as well. But fortunately, with fundraising and our ability to do so, we're in a pretty decent shape.
And just by the people you surround yourself with Davis and Bob. Davis, you've been affiliated with this program for not just a couple of years.
This is my 20th year.
Okay, that's as much of a testament to the integrity of the program as anything. Things come and go here. 20 years is a long time. 20 years ago, you had a newborn.
Yes.
So what inspired you to get involved with communities and schools, CIS, at that time?
Well, first of all, it was two people that I respected a lot asked me. Okay. But then after you get involved, you see the difference that you can make.
Right.
It's the starfish story, You may can help all of them, but you can help one.
Right.
Then you can help another. And my way of helping is getting involved with the golf tournament and talking to my vendors and getting them involved. Once we get a vendor involved and they come and they play in the tournament, they see what goes on, then they normally come back. And we've got a lot of repeat golfers from year over year, which to me is a testament of the program, a testament of how the tournament has been run over the years. It's something that we as a group should all be proud of.
Yeah. We failed to mention that the entry fee is $100 per person, which is ridiculously low for what you get. I mean, that is the best $100 that somebody could spend to have a good time. If they went out to dinner with a couple of friends, they might not spend $100, but they get to play golf, they get to help a great cause. You've kept the costs very reasonable.
We have, and we've tried not to nickel and dime people when they get there. What that includes a mulligan on the front and the back. And so they get the lunch, they get a goodie bag that I would say is second to none in golf tournaments.
I believe you, by the way. Just the way you said it, I believe you.
And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so, we've never had somebody to say the value was not there.
It's a real fun day. Everybody that I've been in contact for all these years is very supportive. And I'd say more than half of our golfers are repeat.
Yeah.
At least more.
Right.
we're privileged to have a relationship with communities and schools. We, as real estate brokers, talk about CIS with a lot of the families who are moving into town. They have a lot of questions about the schools, about different support groups that are available to them, and CIS is something that I encourage anybody who is ever thinking of mentoring or sharing or being a role model. It's a very rewarding experience because you're giving of yourself to somebody and you don't know what kind of effect you might have on them as they grow older in their formative years. This area is ripe with people who want to give, and there are volunteers. I guess at the tournament, people will come, and it's a great way for you to introduce CIS to people in the community as well, to keep your volunteers going up. The 20th annual Rigsby Clark Golf Tournament is August the 13th, 8:30 shotgun. It's a 7:30 a.m. registration, and it's $100 a person. There are still a few teams available, so please contact CIS. And Brianna, I'll defer to you on that.
CISmore.org is our website, and there's plenty of information up there about that. And you can call our office at 295-1072 to register your team or for more information.
Thank you. Communities and schools is always welcome to come on the show.
Well, thank you. We appreciate being here.
Bob Rigsby, thanks for coming and joining us.
Davis
Clark, it was a pleasure.
Thank you very much for having us.
And Brianna Nelson, it's always a pleasure, and we hope to see you down the road.
Absolutely, Bill. Thank you very much.
Everybody have a great week. Thank you.
Mother has to iron his shirt, then she sends the kids to school, sees them off with a smoke.